welcome to the Gift Show. My guest today is Alex Williams. I was watching a YouTube video from the IMF about the world economy. And what they're saying is they're expecting a technical recession in 2023. That is 2 successive quarters of declining output. The recession that's expected in the United States is largely due to an increase in the interest rates. In Europe, it's largely due to the cost of gas, diesel, petrol, and home fuels rising on account of the war in Ukraine. Another contributory factor is supply chain issues due to the lockdown in China. Alex, what's been your experience of the cost of inflation? How has it impacted you?
I think for me, John, I wouldn't say I'm quite fortunate that financially I'm doing okay at the moment. I'm able to got a roof over my head, able to put food on the table. I've got plenty of work. I'm what I would consider comfortable, but I won't deny that all the news, all the attention that's on it, and because it is very real what we're experiencing, this isn't just something in our heads. This is something very real, an environmental situation that's causing stress on so many people that, it has made me think, okay, how can I look after myself, look after my money, and look after my mental health ultimately?
Yeah.
So it's just made me think more about what I can do now to protect myself in the future, really.
Yeah. I think you made a very good point there, Alex, which is to talk about the mental health issue. What advice would you have for parents who have a mortgage, they have a young family, they could be paying childcare fees, that they could have young children in school, they might have a car loan, so they're struggling to make men's ends meet. In other words, they're seeing an increase in their monthly mortgage payment. Their car loan has become more expensive because of increases in interest rates. And also they're seeing increases in costs at shops, whether it's food or clothes for their kids. What advice in terms of mental health do you have for these people?
Well, I think first of all, it's important to understand that, some basic emotional needs are at risk at the moment for people. We don't feel safe and secure because we're wondering if we're going to be able to afford stuff. We also don't feel like we've got control and autonomy because, we are dictated by how the market goes in a lot of ways, so it's going to be really hard. My first piece of advice is to remember that the problem is the problem, not that you're the problem.
Correct.
What I mean by that is that often when things go wrong, we start to believe it's because of us or that we're somehow bad people. And one thing I think, probably because of social media, there's people out there who can maybe lead you to believe that having money makes you a better person. Now, money obviously gives you more protection. If you've got money right now and you're comfortable, you're not going to necessarily worry about having food on the table and having shelter. But what I want people to know is that just because you have money doesn't make you a better person than someone who doesn't. Actually, some of the key attributes and skills that make us good people actually come free. Being kind, being compassionate.
Very good.
Giving our time to people actually makes you a better person than whether you can spend £1 million on a Tesla during a financial crisis, So I think it's important that people remember that the problem is the problem, you are not the problem. The second thing is, I guess, is to focus on what you control now. And I always tell people the only thing that we really have influence in the present moment is our attitude and our actions. And therefore, sitting there spending our time worrying about what the future might hold, although you are completely justifiable in doing, because it's normal to worry about what the future might hold for you. So actually, our only power really lies in what we can do in the moment. So what can we do really? And as I said, try not to beat ourselves up. Try not to compare yourself to others.
True.
Try not to look at people who seem to have it all together and think, why am I not like that? You're just going to end up beating yourself and torturing yourself. And that's going to affect you drastically.
True.
I always tell people, try to restrict the amount of news you are watching. I don't believe in completely ignoring the news. I don't believe in avoiding triggers. I think we have to
Right.
learn to handle those triggers better. But I saw the other day on the BBC website that they forecasted in March, or was it April, when they believed that the support that the Tories originally pledged to people which has now been taken away, means that people could be facing £4,000 a month on energy bills. And you're thinking, God, that's loads. So if you read that, you're going to start panicking. Now, if that comes to be, then yes, okay, you might be like, what am I going to do about this? But right now, it's trying to restrict the amount of information that's having a negative effect on your mental health. So be mindful of that. If you're watching the news all the time and you're just feeling rubbish, maybe cut down a little bit. Another thing is just to then focus, as I say, focus on what your attitude and your actions right now. A lot of advice when it comes to self-help, if we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, looks at self-actualization, being the best you can be.
Very good.
Whereas right now, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very bottom rung is being threatened. Our physiological needs, our food, shelter, those sort of things, our safety, and when you work up with those sort of things, our friendships, and those are people around us are being threatened. So it's rather than thinking, well, how can I be the best I can be? Rather, how can I be a successful solopreneur? Focus on the basics that are kind of zero cost basics. So such as sleep, rest, exercise. Exercises, I know you may not be able to go to David Lloyd where you pay £100 a month to have a sauna and play tennis with your chums, but you can go to the park, have a run, do those things. We so undervalue the importance of just looking after our bodies and making sure we're well rested, well exercised, well fed. I appreciate that food is hard to come by for those who are really poor, but if we can try and get some basic nutrition into us, it's really important we do that. Second thing is, if you've got a job, try and find meaning to that job, even if it's not meaningful work. So often people say you need to find a meaningful job in the sense of something that brings you is some big purposeful thing like changing the world or whatever it is. But I actually think work can be hard for us. But if you can see that the purpose in you going to work might be to help you to pay your bills in the short term, that can be really beneficial just to help you to look at the bigger picture to that. But the important point of that is just don't overwork yourself just because, you can't pay, you're struggling to pay your bills. It's another thing that's really important. The third thing I'd say is spend time with friends and family. We're social beings. It doesn't cost a lot. You don't have to go out for fancy meals. You don't have to do fancy things with your friends and family to spend time with them. Try and look at cost-effective ways you can do that. Community is so important right now, and it's important that we stick together as much as possible. The fourth one is, I would say, have fun where possible. Fun. There's lots of things we could do for free that are fun. We may have to look at what we usually do. For me, I like to go to the pub and have a few beers. I probably won't be able to I might not be able to do that soon. So I have to be mindful. How can I still have fun that isn't costing an arm and a leg? A pint costs over a £5 at least in most of the places I go to now. So, and the other one is kind of look at how you want to move forward into your future. I think one thing I always say when it comes to mental health is that we as humans, we like to learn. One of the worst things I believe that we can do as humans is we think we get to retirement age and stop living. I think that's when we start to basically give up on life really. And I think the key is to keep our brain fresh, is to keep learning. And the libraries are free. You can get books. There's resources on the internet. I assume most people, one of the essential things they should be paying for is internet and broadband. In my opinion, it's essential today in today's world. And look at how you can learn stuff just to keep your mental health
very interesting. Yeah,
really just to keep your brain functioning well. And I think if you focus on those things, I've given a lot of information there, but I think if you can focus on what you can do now, say your attitude and your actions, try to focus on the moment rather than worry what might happen in the future, then you give yourself a better chance of kind of moving forward in a healthier, more positive, productive way than if you just kind of let everything get on top of you. But, it's important if the latter does happen, it does feel too much. Just don't beat yourself up. Don't give yourself a hard time. You're human. So if you're experiencing hardship and are struggling right now, the last thing you want to do is beat yourself up for that.
True. And I would add there that it's important to prioritize your expenditure. So if a person is paying a mortgage or they have a monthly rental payment, that's your number one priority.
Mm.
After that, it's heating your home, putting fuel in your car, and buying food. And I think it's a case maybe of looking at the necessities as against the luxuries. And perhaps you have to cut down on the luxuries in life and put more emphasis on the necessities. Now, if in terms of going to the supermarket, you might decide I'll buy own label instead of premium brands.
Mm.
That can give you some savings. Also, to make use of coupons or money off vouchers in supermarkets, and try and spread the load to get the best use out of your money back vouchers or money vouchers that you can use in various supermarkets. And I think also there you said there, you know, instead of paying €5 for a pint of lager or Guinness in the pub, perhaps buy in a few cans. There's money to be saved there. But the most important thing I've got from this conversation today, Alex, is to be the best person you can be in difficult circumstances, also to have fun, to make good use of the internet services, and to look after your mental health well-being. And I think it's most important to get out there, be a sociable animal, and as you say, to have fun, because laughter is a great way of relieving and reducing stress. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience before I let you go?
Just take care of yourselves. That's what I would say. I want people just to realize that, I guess, that this isn't a mindset issue that people experience. And a lot of people will talk about stress and talk about money as if it's a mindset issue. There's a whole world of self-help stuff that isn't that helpful to people, that will elicit a lot of shame on people. The reality is that we are facing tough times. That's just how it is. It's an environmental issue, and that's going to have a massive effect on your mental well-being. So just, if you are struggling, just don't be too hard on yourself, and get help if you need to. I'm sure there's help out there.
Of course.
Please reach out to someone if you're struggling.
Yeah.
This will pass. Things will get better. I believe it may not happen as quickly as we want, but things will get better in time.
Yeah. And I think it's a case of be judicious about who you reach out to. Don't just reach out to your neighbors. They might not be the right person or people to ask for help. Talk to your GP, for example. They might be able to give you more pertinent help in terms of mental health well-being. So on that note, I'll bring today's conversation to a close. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, John.